What's up, everybody? It's Gary B, and this is the Sports Card Strategy Show, because you know this, there is no off-season.
No off-season! When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own.
What? The kids better buy my rookie card now, because after this year, the price ain't coming down.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Hickey. It's time to sit back, listen, learn, and earn with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Welcome to the number one sports card hobby podcast of all time. It's the Sports Card Strategy Show. I am Paul Hickey. If you are sick of wasting money, ripping wax, and buying into breaks, you have found your home, my friends. Welcome in. On today's show, you have not one, not two, but three hosts as we say hello to Lefty McKee and George Crespo. Lefty, of course, has been with me for a long time on the Sports Card Strategy Show, and George is the founder and operator of slabdynasty.com. On today's show, we're going to talk about a lot of relevant topics. Of course, we're going to help you with some advice on making money flipping sports cards via our data-driven sports card investing strategies. We're also going to talk about some announcements from Topps and Bowman, some Caitlin Clark and Shohei Ohtani wins. We're going to talk about whatnot, and I can't wait for this conversation. You'll see why in a minute. Also, the 2026 Fanatics Flag Football Classic, Bam Adebayo's 83-point night. We can't let that one slip past us because there's some interesting data and analytics takeaways from that I want to talk with these guys about. And speaking of data and analytics, we got some more data from eBay leading into the World Baseball Classic, which is already wrapped up. So we'll give Lefty his opportunity to talk about that as well, as I know Venezuela, beat the U.S. All right, real quick before we welcome in our co-hosts on today's show and give them the opportunity to talk, I want to talk about nooffseason.com. So we're at our limit. We made it to 500, so we're back into the waitlist scenario. So we've opened up 10 more waitlist spots. So in the interest of keeping our strategies and plays exclusive, we need you to join the waitlist if you are not a premium member. Many of you have listened to the Sports Card Strategy Show for a long time and have thought about subscribing, but have been waiting. The wait is over. Don't let anyone else grab your spot. Get on that wait list, and we'll get you in soon as there's a spot available. And here's another thing that I want to do for everybody. Anyone who is a member of nooffseason.com and who joins the wait list, I've got this box it's a hobby box of Bowman Draft 2025. Bowman Draft 2025 baseball. Haven't known what to do with it yet. I did get it in the pre-sale, and it's worth about what it was worth when I bought it, and I don't like ripping wax. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it away to a premium member at nooffseason.com. So there's 10 waitlist spots available. And if you're one of the ones that can get on that wait list as soon as you hear this, go to nooffseason.com. You will be eligible along with all the other premium members at nooffseason.com. One fortunate premium member will get this hobby box of 2025 Bowman Draft Baseball. So we're going to help you make real profits flipping sports cards with our insider data, proven strategies, and exclusive access to undervalued cards before the rest of the market catches on. We've got George Crespo from slabdynasty.com today as a co-host on the show, but I do have to mention that this podcast, the Sports Card Strategy Show, is powered and sponsored by Slab Dynasty Cards, a next-gen sports card platform built for collectors that includes a 2% marketplace fee and or a choose your chase feature. Start your dynasty today using the promo code NOOFFSEASON for 20% off your first Slab Dynasty purchase. All right. Speaking of George, let's welcome him in. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Can't wait to talk some sports cards with you and Lefty. Lefty, what's up, man? I know
Dude, I'm doing
you've always got a lot going on. How you doing,
Yeah,
brother?
I do have a lot going on, but I am loving where my sports card strategy is right now. I think from January, and I hope we get a opportunity to like flesh some of this out, which I actually know we will because I've seen the rundown of some of the things that I am really excited about in this first half of the year. But dang, it's been going well for the McKee portfolio over the last 4 months.
Love it. All right, so let's jump into the first topic because it was something that you texted me. You texted Turner and I both. It's this fact that Topps came out with an announcement regarding Bowman basketball, and it's saying Bowman basketball for the first time ever will include officially licensed NCAA men's and women's basketball and NBA trading cards in the same pack. So Lefty, you kind of brought this to my attention. It reminds me of something, but I'm gonna let you go first. You and George kind of go first here and give the audience your take on this. I think it deserves some airtime here on the Sports Card Strategy Show.
Yeah, I think this has the opportunity to be amazing. And it also has the opportunity to fail miserably in my mind, which of course you could say like, yeah, Kindle, like that's 95% of everything Topps does. It could be awesome or it could end up just pooping all over themselves. It reminds me of two things. It reminds me of the Chronicles packs where you could open up anything and not Chronicles. Yes, Chronicles, where you can open up like a mosaic and also a spectra and all this other insert stuff. It reminds me of that where you're like not specifically getting maybe the thing that you set out to get, and that I'm like a little bit nervous about. Like, would I rather have a Duke Cooper flag or would I rather have a Dallas Mavericks Cooper flag? And I know that's not exactly how they've set up this release because they're putting the new college potentials in with the current rookies and things like that. But I think it has the opportunity to just water down the product a little bit. And that's what I'm a little worried about. What I'm really excited about is there could be some absolute bangers of cards in this set. And I could see the value of other cards rising with this product being what it is. And so we are still in the Wild West per se of how Topps is taking over the new licensing for the NBA and now also the NFL that's coming out, I believe maybe later this month. And so, or is it in April? Am I wrong on that?
It's supposed to be April 1st. Yeah, I mean that's
so pretty much later this month.
The entire time. Yeah.
So I think this will be we're still in the Wild West of seeing how that plays out. This could be a really good product to determine what the future with Topps looks like for not only the NFL, but also not only the NBA, but also the NFL. Because I think when I think about the college football stuff, I think about the draft picks, college stuff. Like I remember when I was really hunting for Trevor Lawrence back in the day, there was like a big pull on some of his Clemson cards before he had Jaguars cards in that Prism draft pick set. I think that kind of stuff won't be a marketed thing anymore. And maybe they'll just be pushed into the main product, which that is kind of exciting. So that's kind of where my take is at on it. I think I'm excited, but weary at the same time because it is such a new thing. I think it has opportunity to really change the way that we have invested in products previously because it's just a new thing. And like we've said, our hobby is ever evolving. It's been ever evolving for the last 5-6 years that we've been doing this. And we've continued to have to put our hard hat on and get down in the trenches and really figure out what's the best way to make money. And we're having to look at this with a really critical lens to see, is there a way that we can make money with a set like this?
George Crespo, slabdynasty.com. Welcome into the show, my friend. first topic, I mean, what is this something that gets your attention, and what do you think about it?
It definitely gets my attention. And also thank y'all for having me on here. Once again, I always feel like a fanboy seeing both you guys on here and seeing my face on the screen. So always exciting. But I'm gonna have to go with I'm more weary of it than excited about it. It's going to be one of those things where they're clearly testing the market to see what they can get away with. It's one of those. My first thought is, what players are they going to be mixing in there? Is it going to be, that players that we want to see for college, or is it going to be just a bunch of role players and a bunch of crap? Because that's not going to be cool. It's just going to devalue retail more than what it already is. I mean, I'm one of those people that says retail, and you are too, Paul. There's never a clear way to make a profit ripping wax opening up a retail box. It's always safer to go after singles. I am interested to see what this is going to do to the single market for these boxes. Is this going to affect it in a positive way, because these chase cards might be harder to get because there might be a lot more B-roll college players mixed in there? Or could it do the adverse effect where, it just hurts it all together because there is so much junk in there with just a few golden nuggets? So I'm a little bit more on the weary side with this one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I do think that, no doubt. I mean, anytime there's more cards being produced, there's going to be more junk. So I definitely agree with that. I think for me, this is simply, there's going to be more NBA singles is what this means. So to me, when I read this and I kind of read between the lines here, it's like and it's kind of funny because I didn't intentionally do this, but if you were to take this, probably maybe not this release, this 2025 Bowman draft release, but if you were to take the 2026 Bowman baseball release, you would have veteran MLB players in there. Yeah. And so that's what this is to me. This is going to be, you're going to open up. So Bowman basketball has had NCAA men's and women's in the same release before. That's not new. So it's kind of funny when I read the comments on this X post, there's people talking about that, and I don't typically chime in on that, but that's not new. That's we've had women in
Uncle Demi comment
with the men's release. Yeah, Uncle Demi. Yeah,
come on.
I don't know who that is, but yes, that's the one I'm referring to.
Unk's not informed.
Unk has almost 30,000 followers on X, so he's got a little audience going. Oh, wow. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's definitely not informed. He's not an informed hobbyist. So, and I value accuracy, and so I believe that we need to look at this release it doesn't affect the college cards that are coming out. I don't think that this is something where you're going to have more or different college players. I think this is something where you're now just going to have new NBA cards that haven't existed yet mixed in with the Bowman release, and they're going to be Bowman. So so this card, for example, that's in the post, this Cooper Flag card, this is going to be a card that maybe wouldn't have existed because up in the top, it's a Bowman Chrome rookie card. It's not a Topps Chrome. So to me, I talked about on last week's episode, with the Topps collector kit, there, within the Topps collector kit, there's this new design that exists that's never existed before. Now this is just Topps and Bowman and Fanatics saying, here's more NBA cards for you all. And what's interesting about this is, we're going to be able to compare pricing between what's the paper Bowman Con Knipple PSA 10 versus the Topps paper Con Knipple PSA 10, or what's the Bowman Chrome VJ Edgecomb base versus the Topps Chrome VJ Edgecomb base. So for me, I think it's going to just add another element to the singles that we could potentially put in our sports card rankings. But I mean, I know for, the wax rippers out there and the breakers out there, it adds a whole other element to that. And, to George's point, I think there's definitely going to be a lot more waste, but I think for us at nooffseason.com, there's definitely going to be a lot more opportunity to partake in the raw to grade on some new cards. So Lefty, doesn't this remind you of Bowman baseball? Like it's kind of like, this is, that's where my mind first went when you texted it to me. It was like, oh, these are going to be now where you can get that, the Roman Anthony rookie in Bowman, right? That now we've got a Cooper Flag rookie in Bowman, which we didn't have before.
The thing I worry about in that sense is like, man, the rookie cards in Bowman are pretty much, in my opinion, worthless. It's just like, okay, you're just looking for
except for the Shohei Ohtani 2018, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, that's totally different. Yeah, I mean, there are outliers in every scenario, and but for the most part, it's just a bunch of crap. Yeah. I don't want there to just be a bunch of crap, which I think is what George is saying. But and sorry, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, George. So if that's not what you're saying, speak up. But
no, you're good. You're good. You're spot on. You're not wrong.
Yeah, I think like I like the idea that it could potentially break into a new form of it, but I am weary from the same reasons you guys are. I think, but I go back to Bowman has been in the NBA before, and one of my favorite LeBron cards is that Bowman Stars and Stripes or whatever that parallel is. The Bowman Chrome of his 2003 of him, I think, is my favorite LeBron rookie. So it's like, it's not the most valuable, but that's one of my favorites that I like the most. And so it's like Bowman has been here before. So this is actually re-entering some territory that has previously been stated on or has been stood on in the NBA. So to that degree, I am excited about that.
I think it's just an interesting topic to bring up from hey, there's, the rest of the hobby is going to be talking about this from a different perspective. I think for us, it's like, could be kind of cool because it could add some more raw to grade plays. However, on the maybe negative side, when you talk about supply and demand, this does increase the supply drastically of NBA rookie cards. I think more than anything else. Like I don't think it affects Bowman at all in terms of the college side, but I think it does affect the supply of NBA rookie cards moving forward, where you will now have the demand need to meet the supply in order to hold the value of guys like Cooper Flag. However, what's something we haven't really talked about is we don't and won't have any of the Panini releases without the licensing and everything. So there's not going to be Cooper Flag contenders, anything like that, Prism, Optic, anything like that. So maybe having this Bowman release, it's just uncharted territory, right? Like we don't know. So it's just that, like Lefty said earlier, it's that ever changing, ever evolving sports card market, which is really, I mean, that's why I do what I do. That's why I love what we do together, is like we're never done. Everything's always changing. So we have to continuously, follow and adjust our strategies. So, well, good stuff there. All right, guys. So in terms of one other topic I wanted to talk about, and we don't typically cover too much hobby news, but today is definitely more of a hobby news slanted show, which I think most people will enjoy anyway. I have talked open and honest on this show about Whatnot and even eBay Live, just to be fair. Like, it's not like I've singled out Whatnot. Mm-hmm. I do love eBay. They call it eBay Core, by the way, because I've talked to some people at eBay. Had some discussions with people at eBay, so I just I think it's kind of funny that internally they refer to eBay as we know it as eBay Core. So that's what I'm going to call it. eBay Core, we love. That's where you can.
That's actually kind of
singles.
Awesome.
What's that?
I love eBay Core, man. I'm all in
Core,
on eBay Core.
Yeah, eBay Core is like my favorite place to be. One of my least favorite places to be is eBay Live or Whatnot. or Fanatics Live or any of those, so, and that's just me. And that's honestly, it's less about what the platform is and what the people behind the platform are trying to do. It's more about the douchebags on the platform and their lack of knowledge about what they're selling. And I'm not saying that all sellers on Whatnot or all sellers on eBay Live or Fanatics Live are douchebags, but I'm saying that just about every time I've gone on and just randomly tried to find and experience a new person that I don't know, I don't have the best experience. I don't always believe that they know what they're talking about. I think there's a lot of misinformation. I think there's a lot of people. Basically, what I'm getting down to is there's people that are like, this is the best card ever. You need to bid on it. And it's one of the pieces of crap that George is talking about. So I think, no disrespect to anybody, but I have been calling out Whatnot as a platform to beware of, especially because I also don't like getting on there and seeing a bunch of duck races and wheels spinning and a bunch of weird shit that I don't even know. And so what I'm getting to is last week, there was a gentleman named Paul Lesko, who is an attorney who represents a plaintiff. And that plaintiff is filing a lawsuit against Whatnot. And that was covered by Darren Ravel and his Collect media company that covers the hobby. So full disclosure, I haven't really researched this, but I am here to say that I did see this coming. I did think that that this was a risk for a platform like Whatnot, who essentially allows gambling, and that's basically at the heart of the plaintiff's case, is that this is an online casino that's not licensed to be an online casino. And Whatnot, as I understand it, has come out and said only 4% of the sellers on our platform are breakers, which I find very hard to. What? Okay, maybe. Actually, you know what? This is a good.
Have a lot of people.
Hand it over to one of my co-hosts here, Lefty. What do you think about this Whatnot thing?
I'm flabbergasted at that statement of the 4% of breakers. They must have a billion people on there selling thrift merch, because I also know that Whatnot is a platform that does get into other areas, just like eBay Core, by the way, just had to bring that back up, also sells other things. But I think this quote about this is a quote from the article from Collect about Whatnot. It says, "We absolutely reject the characterization in this complaint. Gambling isn't allowed on Whatnot, and we strictly enforce this policy." No, you don't. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You do not strictly enforce this. How many other people are gambling on wheel spins and all this kind of stuff? Every breaker that I've had has had this kind of thing. I mean, I know the giveaways are different, but not by a long shot. They're vaguely different. And I think, first off, I think this is a brilliant thing for Paul Lesko to get in on, because I think he's going to make a lot of money here. I think it just screams this was a place that he could see that he will win the suit, and then they're going to cash in and they're going to get out of there. But I think Whatnot declining to speak on camera is exactly why. They don't police this. They never have. They barely police the shipping of the cards that you purchase. When I was a Whatnot seller, you literally, all you have to do is say card 1, card 2, card 3, card 4, card 5. And if you're not watching the stream, you could mix those up and send however many. Like, you could send card 1 to card 5. Let's say they were the same parallel. You could just mix in and give the closest to a PSA 10 parallel to the guy that spends the most money on your platform. There is other areas of Whatnot that doesn't have a whole lot of policing. So to say that they strictly enforce the anti-gambling, no, you don't. I guarantee you I can pull it up right now, which I'm not going to do for reasons, but I could pull up Whatnot on my phone right now and get in a wheel spin, like within 10 seconds, probably. So this is absurd that I know that they have to take a stance saying this, but it's just not true.
Yeah, I think they're in denial. George, what do you think?
I mean, I was going to start with what Lefty said. I said, let's pull up the app and see how quickly we can find a wheel spin or a duck race here. I mean, it's going to be within seconds. Um, so there was rumors that this lawsuit was coming, for a while now. But everyone knew it was officially going to be, like sent to them once they did their raising last year. They raised $225 million with an $11 billion valuation of the company. So they are flush with cash, and their market evaluation is at an all-time high right now. So that's the reason why this is now being presented the way it is and as aggressively as it is because now they have so much money and their evaluation is so high off of this new funding round. But the biggest problem is they had this coming, and they sort of, I mean, I don't want to be the person to say that someone deserves anything, but when you do not have policing, when you have more Instagram accounts and social media people policing your platform for you than you do, that's an issue. When you have a 10-year-old that is, I mean, I saw a clip of I'm not sure how old this child was, but they were clearly under the age of 21, drinking a beer on Whatnot. Like all these things are issues, like, and this is a problem with like the grand scheme of like our hobby, of where it could go is if we let this stuff run amok, it's just going to make it look that much worse to people trying to get into it. If they see all these 15-year-olds that are able to go on their parents' platform on Whatnot because their parents don't even know what they're doing. They just took their parents' ID, took a wallet out of a purse, or took their wallet out of their dad's nightstand, used their ID, sign up the account. Like, these are all issues, and like there's really no repercussions because of them. Was reading a report that it said that it takes sometimes up to 6 to 10 violations for an account to actually get suspended. That's not like actual like reporting. That's actually like violations where Whatnot's like, hey, this is wrong. You did something wrong. Like,
George,
that's
does that sound like strictly enforcing their policies?
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's the issue here is they're not enforcing anything here. And it's not like it would be that expensive to come up with an AI system to watch all of these videos and to immediately have levers set up to notify someone on the back end of Whatnot of saying, hey, someone just initiated a duck race. Hey, there is this, someone didn't fill out their like you were saying, Lefty, you can literally just say card 1, card 2, card 3, card 4 for all these different auctions and them not actually be properly filled out. Like, these should all be flagged, and these people should get warnings or get their accounts suspended because it's leaving too much up to chance. I have recently spent tens of thousands of dollars on a state-by-state legal opinion to break down what is gambling for each state. And one rule is very clear. If there is a chance for you to walk away with nothing, that is gambling. A duck race is that.
Well,
all of those things is that.
Yeah.
And those people, there's some people that brag like, hey, I make 7 figures a month off Whatnot, and we do it off of duck racing. We do it off of blackjack. I saw someone running a Pokemon blackjack tournament off of there where like each card had different values. Like, these, like, and if you lost your hand, you won nothing. Like, these things are like ridiculous on what they're allowing and not actually following up with. The easiest thing that they can do to be able to do this is make sure that they hire more people for their checking all their violations and their reporting when someone files this report. And they also need to stop allowing people under the age of 18 on live auctions. That's like one of the biggest issues here when it comes to these scams. I think at the end of the day, though, Whatnot is probably going to win this lawsuit. There has been over, I believe, 16 different RICO cases throughout the years on like breaking sports cards as a whole and like Pokemon cards. And every time it has been deemed that like this is like this is a norm. There is some sort of return, and like you're buying something and you understand like, hey, I might not get my actual I might be spending $25. I might not get $25 in return, but I understand that I might get like $4 back in cards, and that's okay with me. So the expectations are all set ahead. So they have a lot of legal ground to be able to fight this and actually come up on top. And I think they probably will, sadly, but hopefully what this will trigger is a new set of, levers for them to be able to like nip this stuff in the bud, because it's really bad. And someone that is having a website that we are looking at doing live auctions, we have a plan on rolling it out. I mentioned AI because that is something that we are implementing with our live auctions when we eventually have it. These things can all be done. Yes, it does cost tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, but when you're pulling in the type of money that they're pulling into, like, they need to be investing in this stuff. And it's ridiculous that they're not, because you ask a lot of people as well, live auctions are, a lot of people are saying it's going to replace card shows to an extent, to these people that don't like getting out as often. So if the hobby is going to keep live auctions a thing, we need to do our part as business owners to protect the hobbyists, and Whatnot is not doing that right now at all.
Yeah, and the duck races and the wheel spins, I mean, as I understand it, or as I've seen it, are part of the programming of the break. So there'll be like a break, but then in between, like maybe while somebody's figuring out what wax they're going to rip next or whatever, they're promoting something that they can win, but off of a duck race or a wheel spin or whatever. I mean, it's all gambling. The break itself is gambling, because you might not win, you might not get anything. I participated in breaks back in 2021 when I first got back into the hobby, and there were times I didn't even get anything, and then I had to ask the breaker, like, I don't understand, why didn't I get anything? I had the Lions, or I had whatever, the Pistons, or whatever team I had picked, because I didn't know what I was doing back then. And so they said, well, yeah, we're not going to send out anything unless you get a hit. And back then I was like, well, what the hell's a hit? I literally didn't know what I was getting myself into. And so there's so many people out there that are coming into the hobby that are just like I was back in 2021, about 5-6 years ago, when and they're getting screwed, and they don't understand why, and they're having a bad taste in their mouth. And George said so many great things in there, and so did Lefty. But I mean, to unpack some of it, it's like, okay, Whatnot is a behemoth. Lefty and I have been to the last, 3 or 4 nationals together, and at just about every one, it feels like it's Whatnot's event. The amount of money that they spend on their displays, their marketing, their live event presence, everything. I mean, it just feels like the national is Whatnot's event when you go to it. And so on one hand, I'm saddened by the fact that I would have to believe that the majority, or at least a significant percentage of people who come into the hobby, are welcomed in either by Whatnot or Fanatics Live, through this kind of live selling that includes breaking or gambling of some sort. So I'm saddened by that. On the other hand, George may or may not want to speak to this from his perspective, but we have had several nooffseason.com premium members who have come to us. I'm going to read a testimonial that actually just came in the last 2 weeks from a guy named Patrick. And we've had, basically, we are like a potential solution or cure for people who come in and basically get poisoned by this kind of gambling, and then say, oh, well, there is an alternative to this where you can have fun and actually get a strategy and be part of a community. And I know, and I want to give George the opportunity to talk about how, what Slab Dynasty is doing to kind of be a positive alternative to this kind of thing. But I'm just going to read what Patrick said. He's a nooffseason.com member. I've spent the last 2 months absorbing every podcast you've published. As always, thank you for everything. I was burning in a Whatnot dumpster fire before I discovered your content. I'm still digging out of this hole after buying shit cards and worthless rookies my first month back in the hobby. Thanks to nooffseason.com, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm on pace to do over 20K on eBay. I would say core this year in parentheses. Margins are still a little thin, but I know I'm on the right track thanks to you. So it's like, I'm flattered that I've got so many nice testimonials from nooffseason.com members that are similar to this. Again, on one hand, I'm like, this sucks for the hobby. On the other hand, it's like, well, if it brings people into the hobby and then they're wise enough to realize that they're being screwed over, and then they find an alternative like us instead, or Slab Dynasty, instead of leaving, that's, at least there's that, right? So I feel like I could keep talking about Whatnot in a negative light, but I'm going to pass the mic back over to George to talk about his take on this, and then anything, because I do think there's a fine line between what we're talking about, and I kind of want to and give Lefty an opportunity to kind of explain this from his perspective too. What George does at Slab Dynasty, there is, I guess, a fine line, but to me, there's also like a clear delineation as to why it's significantly different, the offering that Slab Dynasty has versus like what we're talking about with sellers on Whatnot and eBay Live and Fanatics Live. So I want to kind of break that down a little bit for our audience as well. But George, back over to you for more from you on this.
Yeah, cool. A couple of things. One, I just to touch base on something, because like I remembered it and had it written down earlier. And most people like won't even realize this. I mentioned earlier that Whatnot did an evaluation, did a funding round last year for like 225 million for 11 billion. Whatnot's only been a company for about 5.5, 6 years. You know what other company has gotten an $11 billion evaluation in under 6 years of being operational? Kalshi. What is Kalshi? A gambling platform. So like you only can do these sorts of numbers if you're allowing, these sort of things in there. Like everyone knows that's how the gambling industry works. But it's also to the point with me saying that is they just have, I'm trying to say they have the funding to be able to fix this, and hopefully they do their part to do it. And to go into the testimonials, this is why, like, I started Slab Dynasty. I spent $500,000 in 6 months on breaks. I had breakers offer me $20,000 lines of credit to go with them. And like, this was ranging off of, this wasn't just off of Whatnot. I actually, to be fully transparent, very rarely used Whatnot for breaking. It was mostly on like Instagram and TikTok, where these guys were doing it, but I still used Whatnot. And then after the 500K, it took me roughly about another 8 months to sell all that product off. And it was only $123,000 back in return off of $500,000. Like, that is ridiculous. And that would put a lot of people, financially ruined. Luckily, I've been successful in some previous businesses. I had some spending money. I'm also currently not married. So, there all these things. I have no kids. So like I was lucky. But that's why, we started Slab Dynasty, and I wanted to try to fix this. But Paul was the one that kept me in this hobby, and was able to show me that there is a way for people to make money in it, but also to have fun in it. And still be able to scratch any itches that they might have, whether that's ripping packs or chasing a flip, just making money. And that was one of the things that we wanted to do when we dove into Slab Dynasty, was how can we make sure to not, echo what Paul does here, but how can I take the lessons that I learned from Paul and build a company with it? My first thought was like, hey, what killed me? Packs. What can I fix? Well, I'm not going to start a trading card company because I can't ever compete with Tops, but can we make these repacks a little bit better, a little bit more transparent and fun to get into? So that's why we did higher buybacks. We got 92 to a 95% buyback offers floating. We got more transparency with your choose your chase and all that other stuff. But the main focus here was how can we make sure that because if I would have actually sold all those cards that I had through a different platform than eBay, I would have had an additional close to $30,000 returned on me. But because of eBay's fees, I got hit sometimes for a few months there with as high as an 18% fee, a couple months in a row there, because I was a new account. I had some people, saying a lot of it was envelope shipping. So a lot of people saying they didn't receive their envelope, trying to, get that quick little scam. When like more than likely you probably got there, but since that's not tracked, some people will do what they want to do. So all these other things, how can, those things ate away at any sort of return back? So the marketplace was really like my biggest project, the biggest thing that I wanted to make sure that we fix. So we rolled out with a 2% marketplace fee for any premium users of, no off season. They actually get a 0% marketplace fee if they, let us know what their account is. We actually have a handful of people that are already on there. And that also goes into trades. We also make sure that we're 100% off verifying every single purchase, not just 250 and up. Most people don't realize that most scams are below $250 because of the fact that you are too lazy to normally care about it at the end of the day. You have to go through your bank and all these other things. So a scammer knows like, hey, I can scam a couple of people for $5, $10 card, $20 card, $50 card, and I'm probably not going to have a repercussion. And all it would take is a phone call to eBay saying, I shipped it out. I'm so sorry that they didn't get it, but what can I do? So we've set up different levers in place. There are fines that if you do try to commit scams, you would have to pay. Now, obviously, you send in, a fake card, a fake PSA slab, your account's going to get banned. But let's say you sent in the wrong slab. You meant to send in a Shohei Ohtani rookie card, but instead you sent in a Mike Trout rookie card because you got your orders confused. We do have, levers in place to make it easy for customers on those circumstances as well. We're not going to ban accounts if a seller makes that sort of mistake, but we are going to have to, put a lever in there, make sure that they do understand that shipping is very important. There can't be delays here because as much as this is a business for us, this is us to help you run your hobby business. And we're trying to set up all the different levers we can to make it easy doing that. We're working with a couple different integration systems. I'm not sure if you all have heard of, a company called like Mascot, which helps like integrate your listings onto eBay as well as a couple other sites. So we're making sure that we're being very fluid. We got a couple of cool projects actually with Paul that we're rolling out with too. That is going to be fun when it comes to our marketplace. That is going to educate you on what you're getting yourself into. Like I said too, we are going to be rolling out live auctions eventually. We do have a few levers set up in place with that. First off, it's not going to be just anyone can sign up for it. It is going to be a strict actual invitation only for the first little bit. We do have AI to monitor every single one of the auctions that would be going on, and some things that would be different that like Whatnot could easily do as well is we're making sure to actually, whenever someone is selling a card on eBay, that there's going to be an area for them to be able to click, take them over to Card Ladder and check recent comps for that card. They would be able to do it before the auction ends. So then that way they can know like, hey, this card actually really has been selling for $700, not $4,200 with whatever this auctioneer is trying to say. That's one thing, and that's very easy to be able to be detected through AI, as well as just having an auctioneer fill out their platform properly. We do have a lot of other features when it comes to the live auction as well. And then we also will be coming out with games too, to make it easy and fun for younger people to be able to, let's say you got a Wander Franco. First off, you wouldn't be able to do this, but let's say you did have a Wander Franco Super Refractor that you didn't want anymore. You will be able to trade it into our site and actually trade that Wander Franco in for maybe a Shohei Ohtani card, maybe a Victor Wembanyama card. We're trying to create a process for you to be able to recycle what you have and get something better in return. There's a lot of things that like I can't really disclose with that just because we got a lot of building out with it still to go. But all these things will be rolling out within the next few months, which we're really excited about. But the marketplace right now is where we're really pumping into. Our site, guys, to be fully transparent, we're not the largest. I'm not going to tell anyone to come up on here and throw a bunch of cards and expect to get, sales every single day on it. We got a little bit over 10,000 active users, and we've done over $1 million of transactions in under 90 days. So we're doing good, but we're still no eBay. But we are excited to be able to announce the things that we have rolled out with. And we're very excited to keep the premium users of No Off Season updated with some of the new things that are going to be exclusive just to them as well.
Yeah, great stuff there, George. And I mean, thanks for sharing your story in terms of how how you got into the hobby and how it's evolved. And I think like we can all relate to a certain extent to that. And obviously people are going to have different opinions on repacks and things like that. But I do think that as if I were to rate sort of my sports card strategy, with also keeping in mind, like everybody needs to realize, and I'm going to let Lefty kind of reiterate this too. Like Lefty and I think are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from most hobbyists. Like he and I and Turner and, some of the other, some of the other people that we roll with here, like we're kind of like all over, and probably most of the 500 members at nooffseason.com are going to be more like only looking to flip singles. However, there are millions and millions and millions of hobbyists out there. And even a good portion of the listeners of this show are flipping singles in order to scratch some kind of an itch somewhere, whether it's a collection that they're trying to build, whether it's maybe they do like to rip wax. Maybe they're flipping to rip wax, or they're flipping to maybe even buy into breaks. Like just because I don't buy into breaks doesn't mean that I don't realize that a bunch of other hobbyists are, and and that is fun for them, and that's part of their entertainment budget, and there's nothing wrong with that for them. So all that is to say is that the repack, I believe, is a nice balance between, like, if I were to say breaking is the most evil thing you could do in the hobby, the dumbest thing you could do with your money, and flipping singles and doing our sports card strategies at nooffseason.com is the best thing that you could ever do in the hobby. I would put repacks in the spectrum of, somewhere much closer to nooffseason.com, definitely on that half. And the reason why is because when you go through a good repacker like Slab Dynasty, they're going to tell you all of what is in that repack and what your odds are to get the hits that you might want out of that repack. And they're repacking these singles to where you can say, okay, well, if I buy a 25, a 50, a $100 repack, I know what my risk is. And I guess to a certain extent, Lefty, you could do that with breaking and you could do that with wax. But I think with the repacks, it's just you just know, like, okay, if I'm going to spend $100 here, the worst case scenario is that I'm going to get like $25 back. And that can be very, very different and very, very detrimental at the level of breaking and or ripping wax. So Lefty, okay, I'm going to bring you back in here. Anything you want to share on this? We know most of you, unless you're brand new to the Sports Card Strategy Show, Lefty used to actually be a breaker. He'll be the first. He's got way more knowledge than I do, real world firsthand knowledge than I do in terms of like what can happen in this scenario. Lefty, as I hand it over to you, I want everybody to understand, obviously not all breakers are bad people. This whatnot thing is not going to stop breaking. Breaking existed way before whatnot and the live selling platforms existed. So just maybe share, help us put a bow on this topic here.
Yeah, I think breaking when we were doing it, I owned Wild Cards breaks, but which ended up being a part of justbaseball.com for a little bit as Just Breaks. But we were doing a thing where we were trying to educate the people we were trying to go at cards and educating them about who the cards they were getting, rather than, just breaking them and being like, oh, okay. Well, so there was like an educational component, which George talked about in his thing. And I started seeing that there was really no benefit. There were so many of our people that were spending just buttloads of money and getting nothing in return. And I started feeling really weary about that as a business owner. I started like, it really was like, I started like, feeling conviction about like basically being a gambling house when I didn't really want to be. I wanted to educate people on sports cards. I didn't want to be a gambling house. I wanted there to be an opportunity for somebody to buy into something and and like what the way I thought about it was I'm buying a whole box of Snickers at Sam's and I want you to be able to buy the Snicker, one or two of them rather than the entire box. And that's how I looked at it. But then it became more of like this whole other thing that we've been talking about for the last 51 minutes. So I want to be able to I wanted to be able to do that, and I just realized it wasn't going in that direction. So ended up going into just singles instead. Which we actually did a Whatnot stream called Just Singles one time.
Singles only.
Singles only, which was really fun actually. So
that was fun.
But yeah, just to tie this all together, I think there are ways to make money in this hobby. And there are obviously ways to make money in this hobby by exploiting people, and that's not what we're trying to do. I think there are plenty of people that are exploiting people. We're trying to educate people, and that's the difference.
That was a phenomenal segue because we're about to talk about all the money that we've made recently, not exploiting people, but just simply buying and selling the right cards for the right players at the right time. Before we do that, say hello to the people in the live chat: George Schurer, Richard Villarreal, Vibros Collectibles, and Slab Talks. Slab Talks has had a lot of good points in the live chat about the discussion that we've been having about Whatnot. And he's excited about slabdynasty.com. So is Ryan Painter. I see our guy Ryan Painter in the live chat. Good to see you. And okay, so there's actually this person who is a premium member of nooffseason.com. And it was funny because they asked me a question on the premium pod. And then at the end of it, they were like, and they're super nice. At the end of it, they were like, this is Rincon CNC. It's actually cards and collectibles. And every time you shout me out on the live chat, you say cards and comics. So this is an apology. I'm issuing an official apology to Rincon Cards and Collectibles. Okay, so
they don't want to be associated with comics.
Would not want to be associated with comics, which that's fine. Like I get that. If you're not a comic person, I'm not either. So I don't want to.
You know what are collectibles though? Comics.
I don't even want to say comics. That's true. That's a good point. Collectibles, comics are collectibles.
Maybe they want to be broader than comics. Maybe they already love comics, but they want to be broader than that.
Yeah.
I feel like they're getting shorted here. Can't even
George has some collectibles. They're obviously behind him, so those are pretty sweet.
Yeah, I actually got some comic books behind me too. I got one signed by Stan Lee, one by
George,
Tom Hardy,
cool.
William Dafoe.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Good collectibles.
Comic books are cool, man. Comic books are cool.
Comics are cool. I would agree. I also had a interesting search the other day for The Source magazine. I'm a hip hop head. So when I was growing up, I used to read The Source. I know Lefty has no idea what this is, but we do have Mos Def in our intro to our show. So we've had to try. Anyway, collectibles. So here we go. I just need
really
to brag.
Funny is I know nothing about ancient hip hop like Paul does, but he knows nothing about modern memes, and so that's true. Our educations are completely different because me and Turner live in the meme world, and Paul's just like, I got nothing for that.
I don't get them. I don't. But I think it's because my brain is in a different space than. But I guess everyone else, because my family, my wife DMs them to me, and it takes me it takes me a long time to try to understand what's going on in a meme. Lefty and Turner will text them to me. I'm like, I don't get it. Can you guys explain?
Your brain is too busy going ASDJGF7.
Derek Hagan, also in the live chat. Good to see you. Okay, singles only. For the next little bit here, fellas. I have spoken recently about Caitlin Clark's card value in the last few weeks, I can't remember exactly when it was, but at some point I said that in March and April and May, regardless of what happens with the WNBA collective bargaining situation, Caitlin Clark's cards would start to go back up again because she would be in the news for several reasons. One of them maybe being like the face of this, what's happening with the WNBA situation. Lefty, I think, also texted me that there's been some highlights of her playing for USA Basketball, things like that. Well, sure enough, I was able to make a few Caitlin Clark wins. Recently, I decided to list my 2024 Prism WNBA Caitlin Clark Blue Pulsar PSA 9 it's out of 199. It got a PSA 9. It was a raw to grade play for me. I did make $83 on that. Not a huge return on investment, but making $83 on it, kind of getting out of that card felt good. But the bigger ROI, both from a percentage and a net standpoint, were the Caitlin Clark rated rookie retro PSA 10s. These were raw to grade plays that I made. So I had 2 of them left, and I just sold each of them for one of them for it was what was the auction for? $225. But after fees and everything like that, I walked away with $197.84 and $197.54. So those were both $160 net profits for me. The other interesting one, and I did last week's episode about this, is should I sell my Shohei Ohtani cards? And you guys, if you haven't, anyone listening, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, definitely go back and listen to it or watch it because I break it down. But the essence of it is that the answer to should you sell whatever blah 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 card is how much do you have into that card? What is your situation with that card? Is it a desirable enough card for a desirable enough player to where there will be demand for it in the future, but yet you're not in the black yet? Well, then maybe you hold on to it if you're in the red. But if you're in the black by a significant amount, then that's a whole other story. And then it comes down to, should I auction it? Should I list it in a buy it now or best offer? And so what I ended up doing is on a card by card basis, went through, listed a bunch of my Shohei Ohtanis. One of them, in a buy it now or best offer, a 2018 Topps Heritage Shohei photo variation number 17 that got a PSA 8. The reason I listed this in a buy it now or best offer is quite simply, it doesn't sell that often because it's a short print photo variation. And it not only does it not sell that often, but it rarely ever exists, let alone sells in a PSA 8. So what did I do? I just simply said, okay, what am I into this for? It was about $553. The most recent comp in any grade was a PSA 9 at about $900. I listed mine at $900 and somebody bought it. So overall, a $223.21 profit for that card in a buy it now or best offer. So pretty excited about that one. And then the other one is we talked about this card earlier in the show. I had bought a already graded PSA 10 Shohei Ohtani 2018 Bowman paper number 49. He's pitching. We all know the card. There's like 12,000. This is a pop 12,000 in a PSA 10. Listed it at first at $475. Buy it now or best offer because there were some that had sold for that. Fielded several offers, several DMs came in on eBay for, will you go down to 360? Will you go down to 380? I held firm, Lefty. I held firm. I said, I will not go below $400. It's not going to be $399.99. It's going to be $400. Several DMs on eBay. I was patient. Somebody eventually paid $425. So this ended up being an already graded play, just bought a couple months ago, $97 profit. So listen, the other thing is I'm just going to tease it. Next week's episode, I will be reporting on how well my auctions did for Shohei Ohtani. I can say this. the Shohei Ohtani cards that I am auctioning off, that I bought already graded, I've already more than doubled my money on, and the auctions still have about 5 days left. So really excited to report back on that, but I know Lefty has an Ohtani win that he wants to talk about as well.
Yeah, I first want to. I since you mentioned Caitlin Clark, I too bought her. I bought 3 cards that in December that I thought were going to be wins. Where I was like, no one's talking about Caitlin. I mean, we talked about it at the time, probably on the show rather than in our text threads, where we're like, no one's talking about Caitlin. She's coming off an injury. The Fever did well without her in the playoffs, but still, like, it's just there's no sign of Caitlin on the horizon. Let's buy into Caitlin Clark now. So I ended up purchasing 3 different cards. I purchased 2 of the ice parallel of her, the 22 card, just the poop parallel, if you will. The ice parallel poop. I went ahead and bought a PSA 10 straight off the shelf. So I didn't do a raw to grade play on that.
Yep. I like it.
And so I ended up buying 2 of those, and they're already $100 profiting, according to Card Ladder's price on the PSA's vault. So I'm already $100 green in that. I think I also have several of her regular 22 parallels, PSA 10, and those are up big as well from when I bought them or when I got them in March. I did a raw to grade play on those. Ended up I'm about $40 into this card several times, and I think they're selling for, or right now the Card Ladder evaluation on PSA is $219. So that's a heck of a win for a Caitlin Clark parallel raw to grade play from just a base rookie 22 card, PSA 10. So I'm excited about my Caitlin Clark wins. Since January, I've been very disciplined about buying only players in insert, like I didn't ended up limiting myself to 7 like we had talked about at the end of last year, but I've been very, very disciplined about buying players that I know will go up. I've bought Shohei, Connor Griffin. I've bought Caitlin Clark. I bought Aaron Judge, and then I bought Kimi Antonelli was my only like flyer, and Kimi won a F1 race, and his numbers are going up significantly. So everything I've bought since January is flying right now. So I'm feeling like Midas, everything's turning to gold right now. But all my numbers on all of my cards that are graded are going well. Specifically, my grandmother, Sandy Hughes, bought me an Ohtani card in December. She was like, I want to buy you a Christmas present. She bought me an Ohtani card. Paul and I talked about this in our group chat. She was like, I'm going to buy you the card that I think is the most beautiful card that Shohei has. I was like, okay, cool. She bought me a 2023 All Aces Shohei Ohtani PSA 10 for Christmas. We've talked about this because that guy ended up scamming me. He scammed me and never sent me the card. I went through the whole eBay thing. It was a Christmas present from my grandmother, which sucked. She bought it for like $280 at the time, which was over comps. Actually, we talked about, like, I was like with Paul and Turner, I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it, but she paid over comps. So I'm kind of like, well, that card is going bananas right now. So because I was so bummed about the situation in December when my grandma bought me this and someone scammed me, I ended up buying 3 raws because I thought this was a good raw to grade play because it was underdeveloped, and I thought it was a beautiful card. I thought it was a card that would stand it would stand through time, and I began to invest in it slowly. So I bought 3 of them that I thought were well centered because, I mean, I put it through the grading tool and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, sick. We're going to go and so 2 of them are currently at PSA. I just want to just tell you what the average of I paid for these 3 cards. The average I paid was $223, all fees considered after eBay. That's with grading fees. I was sending these immediately to grading with $223 invested in these 3 cards. Currently raw, those cards are selling for over $400 raw, and the PSA 9s of this card are selling for $450, and the PSA 10 most recently cracked over $1,000 sold and are selling multiple times. This Shohei card is going filthy. I think it's up like in the last 365 days, a PSA 10 of this card is up 1,194%. So thank God my grandmother bought me this card, because I knew about it, but I wouldn't have been like in on it. I started getting in on it, and now I'm like, wow, I think this is the card I will be doing a raw to grade strategy for this foreseeable future until this card begins to level off. Because the PSA 9s, I'm up 3x on my initial investment. So kind of wild.
Props, Sandy M. effing Hughes.
Let's go.
Just absolutely ruling it. Yeah, I mean, this is great. This honestly is like Shohei Ohtani. I bought a ton of them in December. I bought quite a bit more in January. About 25% of them were already graded. About 75% were raw to grade. I have a ton of them still at PSA. Feeling good about liquidating them now, the already graded ones now, just because, to your point, they're up that much. I mean, I'm familiar with the all aces because Market Movers on Instagram has been posting about that card quite a bit and how much it's up. It's incredible. And I mean, one of the things I said on the show back in December, or leading into December, was, when we look at historical data, we're usually able to see with most players, say Joe Burrow, Jordan Love a little bit, Justin Hurts, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, rather, got those guys' names put together. A lot of quarterbacks were able to see, okay, you can buy them, say, in June or maybe March, in these auctions, maybe December, the midseason dip or the holiday dip. We're able to see it with basketball players like Anthony Edwards and some of the others. And we're able to see, okay, well, then in May, it should go back up. You should be able to make 33, 45% on it. Maybe for the football guys, the quarterbacks are able to double up or, at least make 50% on it, those kinds of things. And then with Shohei, I was kind of like, well, here's the thing. All we're seeing is like this pattern where his cards continue to go up in value. So there's not a holiday dip for him. But what we have to consider is, could this still be a dip, quote unquote, for him? Meaning, could his cards still continue to go up, right? Like when we look at we have to sometimes look out into the future and say, when we're looking at the Shohei charts 2 years from now, could this moment be like when he dipped a little bit enough to buy into, even though overall his prices are up? So I think so far, Lefty, we're definitely right on that, and we're cashing in on that. So I think, sometimes you have to think outside the box a little bit and not just continuously do the same things over and over again, which is what we've done. So good job. And I think most of you out there in the Sports Card Strategy audience and nooffseason.com fam are following along and doing some similar things. So
I also want to point out that in 2023, this all aces set, I think I know what has part of the thing that has made this card so valuable is the all aces set in this most recent Topps release in 2025 does have a really freaking awesome Shohei all aces in his Dodger uniform, but it's a super short print in 2025, 2026, that set. In the 2023 set, it wasn't. It was just a parallel, or it was just an insert. So I eventually think that people will catch on to that. But I also would like to just point out, this is a fairly common card. Like, it wasn't a super short print like the new one is. And so that dichotomy there is really playing into this valuation of this card being extremely volatile right now. I mean, it's gone up, like I said, over 1,000%.
That's really cool. I mean, that is great insight there, that most people aren't thinking about or talking about because of, it's all aces from one year to all aces to the next. And so sometimes that stuff gets lost. So that's very cool. I think what's interesting about Shohei is like, you can make these plays on like weird 2018 Tops Now. I mean, like Tops Now releases, we know how many of them there are for like someone's rookie year. And you can still go back, and even though it's not a super short print, it's like literally the most overprinted thing. He's just different, right? So, but that is really cool in terms of that insight about that particular card. So
like some people are using that as a caution to like, don't necessarily like get in and get out on this card. Don't be this one as the hold, because this one isn't as rare as you think it is. You know, it might look like it's rare, but it's not. It's just, so for instance, the Nolan Ryan Raw 2023 Nolan Ryan All Aces card, it's raw selling for $20. You know, and the raw of Shohei Ohtani right now is selling last sold for over 400. So it's like there. Of course, Nolan Ryan, Shohei, a little bit different. We've talked about, like, it's not all the same, but don't be surprised if this does level back off and come back down to earth when people realize there's going to be 12,000 of these that are in a PSA 10 rather than 500.
Good stuff there. Absolutely. All right. Remember that nooffseason.com is the only place on the planet with sports card rankings updated every Friday, sorted by the return on investment percentage you're likely to make in the future, your competitive advantage in the sports card market. Ready to secure your edge? Visit nooffseason.com now and get one of our final remaining waiting list spots. We're full at the 500, but we've opened 10 waitlist spots. Again, any current member or anyone who joins the waitlist now will have a chance to win the hobby box of 2025 Bowman draft that I held up earlier in the show. All right. I just want to throw this out there because like Fanatics, Tom Brady, a lot of big names, something brand new. These don't have cards yet, but it's a discussion about possible selling markers, possible future opportunities. The 2026 Flag Football Classic, Fanatics Flag Football Classic, happened over this past weekend. Tom Brady led a team called the Founders in this Flag Football Classic. There was also a team made up of current NFL stars called the Wildcats. And then there was a third team, Team USA. So I guess there's a few different interesting things here. First of all, it made me think, we had a premium member ask on the premium pod about a selling marker for Tom Brady cards. I thought, well, let's look at some data after this Flag Football Classic and see if it did anything to Tom Brady cards. I'll just shorten that part of the conversation by saying it really didn't. There are a lot of Tom Brady cards right now that are up significantly. My mind wonders a bunch of different things related to Tom Brady first, and then we'll get to the Flag Football part of the discussion. Tom Brady is in the media so much, and not only is he in the mainstream media so much, but he's in the sports card hobby media so much that I wonder if it is not a selling marker for him to do something anymore. That is just I'm just wondering that. I don't know. I don't have anything else really to add. I see Tom Brady cards, probably doing well for a long time. He's probably a safe long-term investment. I don't know that there's a short-term flip selling marker for his cards so much as there just is maybe a long-term, to steal Lefty's term that he uses often in this case, storage of value type of play. Even I looked at my LeBron James 2003 cards before the show, and, the Topps white suit PSA 9 is like double. Well, remember we talked about that card Lefty back in September a lot. I think back last time we had George on the show for the full episode.
We actually talked about Brady, I think, last time he was on the show too.
And so like that LeBron card is up. It's like double what it is. And I mean, part of it is it's different because LeBron's still active. He's on a Lakers team that could actually make a playoff run. So that's different than Brady. But I don't know, back to this Flag Football Classic, I just want to tee up some discussion between you guys and bring George back in here. You've got this team Founders led by Tom Brady and some retired stars like Gronk. But then you've also got like Ashton Genty, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith on that team. So it's mixed between active and current NFL stars. Then you've got Jaden Daniels and Logan Paul on the same team. With Odell Beckham Jr., who is retired. So you've got like Odell Beckham Jr. teasing an NFL return. You've got Brady. You've got like YouTube stars, WWE stars. Oh, and then, by the way, you've got Team USA that's going to be in the Olympics, and Team USA just blew the F out of everybody in this thing. So it's kind of interesting because you've got potential selling markers for a lot of guys. You've got potential sports card plays for a lot of guys. And then do you eventually sooner rather than later have Team USA flag football cards?
I would think you have to have that.
You have to. Is that the biggest? What's the biggest takeaway from this whole thing? Let's bring George back in. What do you think, George?
George, I need you to make these if they're not already in the. Call them.
First off, those I watched some of the clips from the games, and the Team USA flag football team is nasty. I was watching some of those jukes. I was like, yeah, no, the NFL players just need to stay home if this is like the type of game the flag football players are actually like. If this is how flag football is played nowadays, I mean, like, I remember back on the schoolyard, but yeah. Flag football cards need to come out. Like that was cool. It was fun. It's one of those things that, like, they threw a lot of celebrities at it, wanted to see what would happen. I think, Paul, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Tom Brady's just saturated everywhere. You can't walk down the hobby street and not see a picture of Tom Brady or see something about him. So I'm not really surprised that he didn't really have a fluctuation in his card prices there. I would be surprised if they do these every year, if this would have any impact in anyone's card prices. I made a joke in a group chat with some of my friends. I said, hey, Stephon Diggs might have helped his case to get picked up on the team with that catch. But other than that, it was just a good time for jokes and stuff. I will say this. I didn't think I felt like it could have been better. I felt like it could have been produced better. It could have been they definitely ran it publicly a lot and marketed it well, but I don't know. I felt like something was missing from it still, but it was definitely cool, fun. If Topps starts dropping, Topps will start dropping these flag football cards now. It will be interesting to see how their market does, but there will be some selling markers with them, especially with the Olympics and stuff coming up.
Shouldn't there be an immediate, I'm actually shocked right now on Topps.com that there's not a Topps Now Team USA card for every individual player who from Team USA who was in this tournament, and then we could buy them and then flip them for the Olympics, right? But I don't see them out there, so maybe stay tuned for that. But Fanatics and Topps will definitely be the ones making these cards, getting them out there, and it's interesting. You've got a lot of big names behind flag football right now.
It's not owned by the NFL, is it?
No, but to my knowledge, it's there's not a league or anything, but there is this, the Flag Football Classic is owned by Fanatics, but the NFL has a flag program, flag football program that's more youth, geared towards youth. But I guess if I had to,
it would be weird if Panini picked it up after Fanatics is owning the league.
I think it would be the logical step. We know Fanatics has the licensing rights to the games that were played, so they could make. I would think that they could just immediately make the cards from the game. Which is why I'm just surprised that those aren't out yet. In terms of the future of flag football, I would not be surprised if there's a pro league that comes out very quickly after this or on the back of the Olympics before. I don't even, maybe there is one already and I'm just out of it because I've got my head so far into sports card data. But I think the takeaway for this show is just keep an eye out, maybe tops.com for some Tops Now flag football stuff. And from this game, I'd go Team USA. I wouldn't touch anybody else. They're going to try to wow you with like Tom Brady autographs and the thing and all that. Like, whatever. Just,
you know what, Paul, you've got to think though, what my thoughts when watching this thing happen is I saw Joe Burrow do some pretty risky things. And I was like, okay, Joe, you are injury prone galore. Let's not freaking tear an ACL while the whole Bengals franchise is literally on your back. Like, and he did some things. I was like, that ACL is popping out. I know it is. So,
well, I got Devontae Smith in my dynasty league, and I'm like, he caught a touchdown pass. I'm like, careful, buddy. We don't need.
Yeah, I mean, they had some big names in this thing. Yeah. Like Saquon was out there, Jalen Hurts was out there. I was like, dang.
That's the power of Michael Rubin. That is definitely the power of Michael Rubin, I think there.
It's also the power of a good insurance company willing to cover it too. So
there you go.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
So no one played a down without having that insurance policy in place.
That is so true.
Good point there. If you like the content on this show and want more, go premium at nooffseason.com to get unlimited advice answered on our premium podcast every week. We've got those 10 waitlist spots, so go get them right now and we'll get you in. Guys, I wanted to talk about this because, it's hopefully I can tee this up well. Our friend Ben Burrows, who used to write, the reason I'm good friends with him is because we used to work together at Sports Card Investor. We wrote together, at Sports Card Investor together a lot of articles for the website for Jeff Wilson and those guys. So he is now he went to Sports Illustrated, then he went to Collect, and now he is kind of on his own as a freelance journalist. Well, the New York Times, The Athletic, which is owned by the New York Times, picked up an article of his. So he's published in the New York Times, The Athletic, and it's a great article about basically selling marker, performance spike selling markers. So here's basically the main takeaways from Ben Burrows' article about Bam Adebayo's 83-point game. So basically, he scored 83 points a week. The day he scored 83 points, eBay logged 5,035 sales for Bam Adebayo. And then when you look, I'm just going to share my screen so everybody can see this chart.
This chart's hilarious.
Basically, it's like you see March 10th is the performance spike for Bam Adebayo. And then March 16th, it's like back down to almost what it was, barely what it was a week before the 83-point game. So, I mean, basically, I'm just going to read Ben's words here. Buying cards to commemorate a historic performance is common and fun part of collecting, but Adebayo's market is another cautionary tale for anyone buying in around a singular event. Most of the time, sellers who already hold the relevant cards stand to profit during our iconic moments, while buyers often watch values collapse after the initial frenzy. Adebayo's numbers have come back to earth, and so has his card market, but the 83-point performance, it could raise the floor value of his cards for the foreseeable future. But here's actually the best part. His 2017 Prism Silver number 51 PSA 10 sales were $40. When was the game again? The game was on March 10th. So a week before, it was a $40 card. The day after, it was a $269 card. And then a week after that, it was back down to a $120 card. 2017 Optic Holo PSA 10 was a $25 card on February 7th. I know Ben had to go all the way back to February 7th to find a Bam Adebayo PSA 10 sale of an Optic Holo 2017 181 in PSA 10. $25 card. The day after the 83-point game, 143. And then a couple days after that, down to 115. So, I mean, like, we know this. I think it's hard to explain this if you don't know this from like living it. But it's really you gotta be ready to have your card. Like you literally need to have eBay drafts ready, or at least photos of cards in your camera roll, so that the same way that you might be wanting to make an in-game bet during a game, you need to be dialed in enough at least to list your card as soon as a performance like this or anything close to this happens. Lefty, I thought this was a great article by Ben, and I definitely wanted to just bring it up as like, hey, performance spikes don't come around that often, especially for a guy like Bam. Don't be the person that's buying into the hype. Be the person that is ready to list your cards, but also reverse engineering some of this stuff, right? Like maybe, like, I don't think that it's easy by any means to say, like, we should have bought Bam Adebayo, but if there is a player that, you know, you want to take a little bit of a gamble on and have that be maybe 5 to 10% of your sports card portfolio, you know, this moves the needle, obviously.
Yeah, if you think it's going to happen again, his 83-point absolute surge. If you think it's going to happen again, it's not. But I will. There's a auction ending in one day that is currently at $37. It will end very close to that $40 mark, I would imagine, because it's going to come down back to reality. What I do think is interesting, a little fun fact for you guys, it's the first couple, Bam and Asia Wilson are the first couple to have the highest modern point total of both leagues. And they're together as a couple. So that's kind of interesting. Did not expect that to ever happen. Literally, I was like, there could literally be hundreds of people that I would put before Bam breaking Kobe's record. Like there would be hundreds.
Before people get too excited about some sort of dual auto, I have to point out that the WNBA Panini still has the rights for the WNBA.
Dang.
And Topps has the rights for the NBA. So I wouldn't expect
that could be kind of cool.
Anything related to it. Maybe it's a player only license situation, but it's probably a good opportunity for like Leaf or one of the other card companies.
Yeah, go on.
Try and do something like
and make 19 one-of-one parallels of it as well. So this is just an opportunity for us to be like you said, vigilant about doing what you're doing well. You know, like staying on top of what we're doing is a big part of what's going to continue to make you money. Like, it's amazing to me how if you take this is kind of the downside of where the market is currently at. If you take a couple of months off from card collecting, you're out of it. Like,
you can miss selling markers big time.
Yeah, big time. So like I do have to stay on top of everything in sports news and all this kind of stuff pretty regularly, because my portfolio determines that I need to be able to be on top of it. You know, like my asset class that I'm working with deserves me to be well informed. And so I think that's really important because of things like this. I mean, for instance, I think just a disclaimer here, this is a flyer pick, but not even that flyer of a pick. I think Wyatt Langford is going to be one of the next superstars in the MLB. He could have a night here. I mean, the season starts on Wednesday, and we're currently recording this Monday, March 23rd. He could have a night this next week where he has 4 home runs and enters the upper echelon of somebody who's hit 4 home runs in a game. There's very few people that have done that. He's the kind of player that could pop off and do that. His market could go from very like stable to all of a sudden parabolic very quickly. And so that's the kind of things we got to be on top of as sports card investors.
Absolutely. Okay, George, I want to ask something a little tongue in cheek here, but let's say you have you've got your odds already calculated and you've got like a Bam Adebayo Contenders rookie ticket auto in a repack product that's Slab Dynasty. And
that's a good question.
And you valued that as like a $25 card, and then he has an 83-point night, and now all of a sudden that's closer to a $300 card. I mean, how, like, I think I know the real. There's obviously a real answer in here somewhere, and I think I know what it is. But just like how, I mean, that is something that we very rarely talk about when we talk about the value that you can actually get out of a repack product.
Oh, absolutely. So it's funny. The BAM, I wasn't really sure what we were talking about before we got on here, but BAM has been a recent talking point in the office on everything. So his base card, a Prism base for a PSA 10 was selling at $19.99 before it, and then it skyrocketed up to $120. So yeah, that could have been either a massive profit that we could have left on the table for rewarding it. We do have evaluator, value checkers that run 3 to 4 times a day to verify that all the cards are listed properly, they are valued properly as well. So we don't really have to worry about it on that side. But for some people, actually, what we do, which actually helps people, is it doesn't really help you on the pack side, but on the marketplace side, if we see a card like a BAM, where it was valued at $19.99, we originally bought it at for obviously a little bit less than that. Its value is now at $120. We threw that card up on our marketplace for $30 while they were selling on eBay for $120. Now that was like an internal one that we were trying to give back. We do that with a couple other cards. Actually, there was someone, we did it. We threw a bunch of Victor Wembanyama Prism Silvers on the site for $1,400, and someone ended up buying like 12 of them just like that. So you can sometimes find cool little deals that when we notice players are having spikes like that, of course we want to, have some fun with it. We'll throw it on our marketplace because we do those value checks so often. And then also, Paul, you made a point that you got to have your photos ready in your camera roll to list these. But just to kind of throw in a little thing for us, if you list them on Slab Dynasty, you don't. We pull them from the grading companies, from PSA, Beckett, SGC. So around 90% of the time, you don't even have to worry about having those pictures locked in your camera roll. They'll already be ready to go.
Love that. So. Yeah, that's great. That's great stuff there. All right, Lefty, let's last topic of the day is related to some baseball data. So this is, again, shout out to the eBay PR team who sends me this data for the show. And we've got this is actually like a couple weeks in a row that I've got good data from them. So this is more related to the World Baseball Classic, driving up some searches potentially for some of these players, which is kind of like we talked about a couple weeks ago, wondering if, thinking it was probably going to happen and wondering if it was going to happen. And eBay must have been listening to the show, because then I got an email. Roman Anthony rookie card went up since the World Baseball Classic more than 280% searches for that phrase. Connor Griffin PSA 10 just got, this is kind of like less World Baseball Classic, obviously, because he wasn't on Team USA, but it's spring training. He's another guy we've talked about as a guy where it's probably like selling time for him. Connor Griffin PSA 10 up, searches up more than 340%. Jacob Mizorowski searches for him up more than 290%. And then this is related to the Super Bowl MVP from the greatest school in the history of planet Earth, Kenneth Walker III. If you don't know where he went to college, you can just look that up. Searches for his name up more than 280%. And then this is an interesting one. Olympic medal, searches for Olympic medal, obviously related to the Winter Olympics, up more than 480%. So from Bam Adebayo performance spike all the way up to just, hey, Roman Anthony's playing in the World Baseball Classic. Connor Griffin is the top prospect baseball starting. Kenneth Walker III won a Super Bowl MVP and then signed a deal with the Chiefs. And the Olympics are on. The search volume is up quite a bit. The top 5 most searched athletes in eBay's collectible category during February 2026: Michael Jordan, Cooper Flagg, Shohei Ohtani, Drake May, and Kobe Bryant. So there you have it in terms of the data. Lefty, anything else you want to add in terms of just baseball starting this week? World Baseball Classic wrapped up, obviously. Give us your 2 cents on all that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Connor. I think he's been one of my big investments this year, or in the calendar year of 2026. I've gone pretty crazy with buying or with raw to grade plays on him. I actually just picked up the biggest Connor Griffin card that I've ever purchased, which was a refractor sapphire. Or the biggest base card, which is just the refractor sapphire of him. I think this card is just going to continually go up. I think he's going to be a guy that they build a lot of hype around, because the MLB needs Paul Skeens' team to be hyped up for their media. Like, Paul Skeens needs to be the horse that the MLB needs to drive. And so they're going to want Griffin to also be great, because they really need that to happen, and so I think there's going to be a lot of media around him. They're pulling him into AAA for the first part of the season to do their silly little game around years of eligibility and all this kind of stuff, contract mumbo jumbo, but he'll be in the MLB before May for sure. And that's when his actual call-up happens. I hope all my cards are out of PSA by then. But even if they're not, I think I bought in at such a good – we did – in real estate, they talk about doing a win on the buy end. They talk about having you buy in at a winnable point, and you don't have to worry about the selling marker. I think that terminology I've been thinking on a lot in sports cards as well, is finding good wins on the buy end. And I've been able to win – on the Shohei All Aces card, like I talked about earlier. That's a good buy-in win. And I think I've been buying in on Connor Griffin long enough that now these cards are going for significantly more than when I purchased them at. And so good job for all of us that got in on these Connor Griffin refractors. So,
absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't even mention World Baseball Classic. Although it didn't really end like I wanted it to. I think had Japan or like matched up again against the USA, I think that game would have done numbers for cards. I think I was happy that Venezuela won. I thought it was pretty cool, for them. But I think a DR against USA game would have done crazy numbers for cards. I think, unfortunately, with Venezuela winning, it wasn't the end-all be-all for the sports card market. I think it could have been crazy had it been other teams in the final matchup. Although I did see consistent selling markers for a lot of guys that were in the WBC. Aaron Judge did not play very well, but his value is still right where it was when the tournament started. So there wasn't necessarily any sort of fall off for him. I'm pretty excited about that going forward. So, like, it is what it is. I think there are some guys that saw rises. I think Bryce Harper deserved a rise for the way he played in the tournament. And so we'll see how his market does for the rest of 2026.
Lefty, who is Max Dowman, a footballer?
Max Dowman? Is he the 16-year-old that plays for Arsenal?
Yeah.
So he actually just broke one of Rooney's young kid records by scoring the earliest goal in the Premier League in terms of age.
He has braces. Youngest goal scorer in Premier League history.
He's the youngest goal scorer in Premier League history, which is a little deceiving because the top league in Europe in England used to not be called the Premier League. So there actually is some younger players, but not since they've been called the Premier League. Rooney was the youngest before that. But regardless, the list that he is now on is extremely good names. We'll just put it that way. Like the names that he's scoring with.
If I told you that you could invest $170 in 20 Topps Now Max Dowman rookie cards, and it would be a raw to grade play, would you do it or not?
I would not, because I've already considered it.
There it is.
I looked at it earlier this week, and then I considered sending it to Fanatics, like that, like the guy that is the strategy that we talked about a couple weeks ago. And I was like, man, I don't want to. The first time I do this, I don't want to have as risky of a play as that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just always looking for those print-on-demand plays. George Crespo has done another amazing job as a co-host of the Sports Card Strategy Show from slabdynasty.com. George, any parting shots for our audience today?
Not that I can think of, other than if you keep following your advice, Paul. I mean, once again, this show has helped a lot of people for a reason. There's a lot of good selling markers coming up with the start of the baseball season. I'm excited to see what Connor Griffin does here, and a lot of these other guys. Was disappointed in the World Baseball Classic as well and how that ended, but also was a little bit excited for a few players that I saw perform well, like Roman Anthony. He looked like a stud out there every single time he went up to bat. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good, a fun baseball season. It's funny, Wyatt Langford is actually like one of my people, that I'm watching here closely this year, that I think this is going to be the year where they make that step up. So I'm glad to see that my thoughts were, right on track with how Lefty's thinking. So
I bought a Langford yesterday, so there you go.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to say to everybody out there, make money on the buy side. Lefty said it. Make money on the buy side. Right now, everybody, it's March Madness. I know. So baseball, it's time to basically sell or continue to make raw to grade plays.
Yes.
Basketball and football, it's a great time to look at our already graded sports card rankings at nooffseason.com and our My Athletes feature, which feeds in the top auctions to participate in for the top players that we believe you can make money on, flipping their already graded cards. So right now, in the middle of March Madness, it is a go where they ain't right now. It's just a go where they ain't right now, because where everybody is they've got their heads in their brackets. So where everybody's not, where everybody is less, is buying football and buying NBA cards. And I'm not talking about recent NBA releases with Cooper Flag rookie cards. I'm talking about your Anthony Edwardses of the world. Okay. For football, it's even better. I am buying a ton of already graded football cards for the top quarterbacks. To get information on exactly what cards I'm buying, you gotta consume the premium pod. So again, go to nooffseason.com, get one of our 10 waitlist spots. But it is time to make money on the buy side, like Lefty just said. For everybody at nooffseason.com and for my awesome co-hosts today, George and Lefty, everybody have a great day. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. If you enjoyed the content on today's show, there's plenty more waiting for you at nooffseason.com. Just go to nooffseason.com right now. You get our formula-based sports card rankings, sports card school, inventory tracker, the ability to grade with us, and the premium podcast where we answer an unlimited amount of your questions. Check it out right now at nooffseason.com. For everyone at nooffseason.com, I'm Paul Hickey. Thanks again for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day.